Everyone say push. Persevere until something happens. I love you. I think you can come and preach it with me. Persevere until something happens. Everyone say push. We've got to push. You are the result of somebody persevering until you happened. She's called your mother. She pushed you out into a place of opportunity. You were her dream. You were her perseverance. You were her hope. You were her vision. And she pushed you out. It was painful. You were the product of pain. It's not a nice thing to say about yourself, is it? But we're all a product of pain, but we're a product of the push. That push that happened to give you birth when you were vacated from that confined space of the womb was not an isolated push. It was just a precursor. It was a physical representation of what happens in many areas of our life. If we're going to see breakthrough, that birthing process is something that we do many times throughout our life. We birth things. It takes incredible effort, concentration, pain. Did I say pain? It takes pain and determination. And yet we get, just like the children of Israel, we get to the precipice of the opportunity, and sometimes we're not prepared to go through the pain because it's too hard, too challenging, too stretching. This morning, my prayer for you is that becomes insignificant compared to the hope that's on the other side of the push. The birth of a baby, I've been to 3 of them. My 3 daughters. The birth of a baby has a contradictory set of ideas wrapped around it. You've got, on one stand, you've got the pain of the delivery, and in the other, you've got the joy of the baby. Pain and joy existing within the same context. By the way, all the notes are up. You can follow this through www.influencers.life/paradise/push2. There's no space between the two, by the way. Push 2. If you type that into your phone onto Chrome or to Safari, all the notes will come up and you can follow me along. The pain of delivery and the joy of the baby. The pain and the joy coexist in the same context. The mother has to go through the pain to enjoy the joy of you, because the joy that was set before her, she was prepared to endure the pain. Does that sound familiar? The joy that was set before him, Jesus, he went to the cross to endure the pain. There was something that had to be birthed, and in him you were birthed at that point because he saw you. I don't know if you've ever been in a birthing room, but this is some of the pictures. I'm going to show faces before you get. This is some of the pictures of ladies giving. Do you see joy? No, not really. You see a lot of pain. I remember those looks. But here's the joy. Amazing, you could have pain 2 minutes before, yet so much joy after the birthing process. All you mums are going back, you're thinking back right now when you gave birth to your little one. I just read my wife's face. Joy and pain coexisting. It's fascinating to think that someone actually made room for you by pushing you into this world. I remember when Grace was born, our middle one. I remember coming home. I was at my mother's place, which is like a 10-minute drive, and I rang Sue, and I knew it was about time, and I rang Sue on the phone. We didn't have mobile phones then. And I said, "How you doing?" She says, "Well, I've got a contraction now." She said, "But there's plenty of time, you'll be fine." So I said, okay, I'll just talk to you and I'll count when the next contraction was. Right? So 2 or so minutes along, the next contraction came. I said, sweetheart, that is not a long way away. I'm flying home now. We're going to the hospital. So when I get home, if I can paint the picture with some decorum, but I found my wife on the toilet, half-dressed, thinking that she was going to the toilet. But she wasn't. She was pushing. And I said, stop it now. Her waters hadn't broken, so we got her to the car. I got a towel, and I just thought about my seat covers and said, please not now. Put it in the appropriate place. Flew to the hospital. By now the endorphins had kicked in and she was a groggy mess. She was drunk. We'd been to the hospital every week for 6 weeks. We knew where the front door was. We knew where the birthing place was. We knew how to get there. She had no idea. Stopped it, got her out of the car. Where am I? She started walking in the wrong direction. Didn't have a clue. She was totally drugged out on the endorphins, sort of walking. Don't push! Till we got her in the birthing room. My sister-in-law was following behind. She had the ghetto blaster. She had everything. I mean, we thought we were going to be there for hours, right? So she went and parked the car. By the time she got up to the birthing suite, Grace was out. She was here. She'd welcome to the world. The push and the relief. When there's pain, sometimes the only way you're going to get the relief is learn to push. Yes, there's going to be stretching. Yes, it's going to lead to incredible pain. Yes, there's going to be something that's birthed, but you've got to go through the pain to get the relief. Some of you think you're in the middle of some incredible pain and you're blaming the devil. Well, maybe it's not the devil, it's just you've got to bring birth to something. Maybe you're going through something, you're going, devil, why is this all happening to me? Maybe there's so much pressure on you. Maybe it's actually not the devil. Maybe God just wants to birth something profound through your life. Last week we looked at Luke's gospel of the picture of the 4 men who took the paralyzed man to Jesus. We're going to have a look at it from Mark's perspective today, reading from Mark chapter 2. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. They gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door, and he preached the word to them. Some men came, bringing in to him a paralyzed man carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it and then lowered the mat the man was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, son, your sins are forgiven. Now some teachers of the law were sitting there thinking to themselves, why does this fellow talk like that? He's blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone? Immediately Jesus knew in his spirit that this is what they were thinking in their hearts, and he said to them, why are you thinking these things? Which is easier, to say to this paralyzed man, your sins are forgiven, or to say, get up, take up your mat and walk? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. So he said to the man, I tell you, get up, take your mat and go home. He got up, took his mat and walked out in full view of all of them. Full view. God wants to do something in full view of everybody through you. Not in secret, something that's in full view so people see and praise God for what's happened. This amazed everyone, and they praised God, saying, we have never seen anything like this before. Remember, our prayer as we're preaching this for you is that what God bursts through you will be so amazing that your friends, your family, your loved ones, those around you will point to you and say, this is amazing. I can't believe what I'm seeing happening through you, of all people, through you. Amazing. You've got a dream. You've got a vision that's not of your own but of God's. And when it's God's and you give birth to it, it cannot help but bring glory to God. And it cannot help but see people's lives transformed because it's what God does. The Apostle Mark here is trying to make a point when he describes the scene that greets these 5 men. He includes this story in the gospel because he wants us to understand this. He wants us to break out of our confined linear thinking. He wants us to break out of the boxes of religion, culture, and mindsets to try and shape us and conform us to the ways of the world. He wants us to understand that these guys had no way in, but there was something about them that was far bigger, far greater. They had a determination to see their friend healed. They didn't conform to conventional method. They didn't say, oh, well, it obviously isn't Jesus' will that he gets healed. They didn't conform to religion. They didn't conform to their natural mindset and think, oh, well, there's no way in, we'll just go home. No, they were prepared to do whatever because they understood it wasn't about them, it was about seeing breakthrough for somebody else. It took a whole lot of pushing. It was unorthodox. It was unconventional. It was even destructive. Who would think about going on someone's roof and ripping the tiles off and dropping someone through? It was destructive, but Jesus called it faith. I have such faith. Because of your faith, I'm making you whole. He called it faith. It was a huge deal. Persevere, plan, pray, persist. Praise until you see something happen. So have you been there before? Some of you have been there. Obviously, a lot of people responded. You're there right now. The normal ideas don't work. But God has breakthrough for you. Do not give out. Can you imagine how these men felt? How the friends felt? They would have been excited. They would have been nervous. They would have been anticipating a miracle. But they would have been completely bummed when they got there, if I can say that. Really? We've been G'ing our friend up. You're going to get a miracle today. Jesus is in the house. We're going to do something. God's good. And they get there, they can't even get in. You know what we say sometimes? Oh, maybe we just didn't hear right from Jesus. Maybe I didn't get the download right. No, you heard exactly right. But God wants to involve you in the miracle. See, that vision that you have is not something that God's just going to naturally do through you. No, what He wants you to do, He wants you to partner with Him. You've got to do your bit to see the breakthrough. Someone had to go to Sri Lanka to love on those kids. Someone had to get out of their comfortable space. There was 88 girls over there that Jesus knew needed loving parents. Know what they could have said? Oh, well, Jesus, if it's your will, someone will do it. God will save them. No, they had to get out of their comfortable space. Thank you for being here today, by the way. I don't know where their tenacity came from. I don't know what they promised him. I don't know whether they were full of compassion. I presume they were. Was it because they didn't want to disappoint him? Maybe they had a revelation encounter with Jesus before. All I know is these men were determined and were prepared to finish what they started. I don't know how you go in life, but I'm not a great finisher. I'm a good starter. Come to my house. I've been in my house 6 years. My house is finished, but my yard is a wreck. Sue and I have built quite a few houses over time. I love building the houses, but landscaping is not my gig. So I don't finish it. So I have been preaching to myself in my office. And yeah, hear my wife saying, very good. And ruining the moment where I had to publicly confess that I'm not a good finisher because I'm now going to hear about it for the next weeks. You got to own it. But God wants you to finish what He's given you. So I'm preaching to myself today. Hey, yesterday we went cycling. For those of you who don't know, we've got a group called Discipleship. We've got a whole group we're up over 20 people now going riding every Saturday. It's our Connect group. You know, Silvio joined our group 6 weeks ago. Come out here, Silvio. Six weeks ago, Silvio got on the bike. He lives up this way, and his first ride, he could hardly make it along Linear Park to the city. Is that true? Yeah, that's true. He had to stop because the world was spinning. 6 weeks ago. But did he give up? No. He kept going, kept turning up. But let me tell you what happened yesterday. 6 weeks on. Yesterday he rode from Adelaide City to Crafers up the freeway. Come on. Come on. I got to tell you, I was riding beside him. It wasn't all easy. There was a lot of yelling at the devil. You're not going to beat me, devil. Is that true?
Yep.
There was a lot of groaning. I was talking to him. How you doing, Sylvia? There wasn't much breath left. But you know what could have happened? He could have got a third of the way and went, wow, look, I've got further than I've ever have done before. Yay. No. I'm going to get to the top. I'm going to get to the top. I'm determined. Hey, did it take a while? Yep. Was there a lot of groaning? Yep. Was there a lot of pushing? Yep. Did it hurt a lot?
Yes.
Alan was there. First time Alan went to the top too. Come on. But he made it to the top. And you know what the great thing about cycling to the top of a hill is? You get to come down, and that's the best bit. Real fast, eh? Well done, mate. Congratulations. Such a good thing. Push. So, on your notes, you see the first 6 things from last week. Here we go. Number 7, find some good friends. Find some good friends. You see, to get to the place of your dream, you're not going to do it by yourself. The lame man had some great friends who were prepared to carry him when they couldn't get there themselves. Friends that were dependable to see that his needs were higher than their own. Friends that were prepared to cancel their own plans for the day and count it as a privilege. Friends that knew where Jesus was. That's a big deal. He had friends that knew where Jesus was, and they were prepared to take him there. Friends that knew that Jesus was the better solution than the doctor and the specialist and Dr. Google. Friends that knew that Jesus was the answer. Friends that lifted his spirit, even dared to believe that the impossible was possible. Friends, get this, they were prepared to be seen in public with the crippled man. The down and outers, the ones who were cast from society. No, he's my friend, I'll carry him. If you want to get something done, you want to see this vision completed and birthed, you're not going to do it all yourself. You've got to find some good friends. Are you that type of friend? Ask your neighbor, are you that type of friend? Ask your other neighbor, do you want to be my friend? Young men, now is your opportunity. Not looking that way at all. Here's the deception of modern culture. Modern culture says you can do it alone. You don't need friends. Modern culture says, I did it. That's right. We've even got songs about it. Go alone. Woman power. No. Not woman power. Please don't kill me. You can't do it by yourself. God created you for family. He created you for community. He created you in a village of people where we learn and grow together. He never created you to be isolated. Go and read Genesis. It wasn't good that man was, so he made a better version. You guys are slow today. Hey, I've been in this church nearly 12 months. There's some great people here. And I'm building some good friendships. Some really good friendships. Pastor Josh is on holiday. I spoke to him yesterday. He said to me, I know I had a long day yesterday. I had to, riding up the hill with Silvio. That was a bit of a journey. And meetings, etc. And he said, how are you going with this sermon? I said, Josh, I'm just a third of the way through and it's 10 o'clock at night. He said, don't worry, Steve. God's with you. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get up early and intercede for you. I'm going to pray for you. That's a good friend. That's a good friend. It rings me up on holidays and says, hey, Steve, you haven't had holidays for a while. You need a holiday. Wow. You're thinking on me? That's awesome. So that's what good friends do. They don't just think about themselves. They're always thinking about others. They're being a good friend. I can tell you, in this house, you can find some good friends. And if you don't have a good friend, start being one. And you know what will happen? You'll attract one. If you be a good friend, you'll get a good friend. Yesterday, Silvio had a great friend beside him. And behind him, Craig Ellis, stand up. Hey. Know what Craig was doing? He was behind him all the way. You're doing great, mate. You're going to make it. You're doing great. That's awesome. Only a little way to go. Yeah, it's just over the next hill. Well, it was really 7 kilometres to go, but he just told him it was over the next hill. He encouraged him. He kept his eyes on the goal. We're going to make this. We can do it. Be a good friend. Find some good friends. Number 8, be a good friend to someone just like Craig was. Can I get the 4 guys up here, the 5 guys up here? Can you imagine these 4 men carrying this lame person? Come up. No dilly-dally. Come on, fellas. Dilly-dally, that's showing my age, eh? So here's the stretcher. Whipped up last night. Thanks, Yara, for making that for us. So here's lame Luke. So 4 guys have to lift him. They have to take equal weight. Otherwise, one side's going to fall. So pick him up. There you go. Guys, what I'd like you to do is just sort of just walk around this way. And we're just going to look at you walk. Go. Do you notice they're all walking? Yeah, don't go that way, Bray. Come round the front here. Right? They're looking at each other. They're seeing how they walk. They've got to walk in unison. They've got to walk in the same direction. Notice some are using their right hand, some are using their left hand, some are at the front, some at the back. Just stay there. Drop him down. No, don't put him down. You can put him down. Stay there. No. So this is what happened. Not only did they carry him along the road and walk together, right? They had to get him up onto the roof. So let's just see how you go going down the stairs. Hang on, lame Luke. Let's see how you go going down the stairs. Now it's a little bit, look, they've got to change their position. Who are they thinking of? Themselves or him? Right, just come walking across the front. That'd be great. Right across the front here. How you feeling, Nick? Because this is the big bit. I actually thought what I was thinking about last night, it'd be really good if we didn't have OH&S, because I'd love to lower him from the balcony down. But I don't know that Freddie. Keep going. Can you make it? You can't touch the TV because there's a rock in the way. You've got to get him over the TV. That's right. You've got to get him up and over. That's it. You don't drop him. Right, that's it. That's it. You've got to get through the people. You've got to get up on the side of the roof. So I'd like you just to go back up there, please. Back up. That's it. So now, boys, just put him down for a second. You've come to the front door and there's no way you can get in. You've got to get up onto the roof. There's no ropes because you didn't think you'd need ropes. You thought you'd get in. They'd let the crippled man in, of course. But no, not really. You've got to go up onto the roof. So this is your little roof. You've got to get up onto here, right? But you're not allowed to drop him. You're not allowed to put it down because the roof is really this high. So you've got to somehow talk amongst yourselves how you're going to get him up. No dropping. Okay. Oh! Okay, bring him up in the middle here. Whoa, careful. Oh. Come on. Drop him down. So, can you imagine them trying to get him up the side of a house onto the roof? That was only like a metre. Thank you. Give him a big hand. I don't know who was the engineer, I don't know who was the leader, but one of them would have had to take lead, one of them had to communicate, they would have had to get it done. They all would have had to play their part. Who were they looking at? Themselves or the crippled man? They were looking at the crippled man. They were thinking about him. They weren't thinking about themselves. Did you notice one of them, when one was slipping, they helped the other person? Why? Because it was all about the crippled man. They worked together. They found a way. They didn't give up. I know there's been some times in my wife and my life where we've had unbelievable friends that saw through the fog and said, keep going, Steve, keep going, Sue. There's hope on the other side of this. We're going to get you there. Don't give up. You're going to birth through into the next. There's going to be a breakthrough. Be a friend like that and you'll attract someone like that. If we're going to heal the hurting, then we need to know what it is to be a good friend. This church has been called to heal the hurting. This is the Stretcher of Influences church, and we're called to carry this church. We're called to carry this community, and we all need to get on our part of the stretcher to bring healing to the church, to the community. And if we're not prepared to carry, someone's going to fall. If we're not prepared to do our bit, then maybe someone's not going to get their miracle. If we're not prepared to walk in step and get in line and not be selfish and commit ourselves to the greater call, then maybe someone's not going to get their miracle because you're thinking about yourself instead of thinking about them. I love the fact that they were nameless, but they were written in history. Number 9, join a team of people who are passionate and focused. These men were passionate and focused. There was no fighting amongst them. They weren't concerned about their own deal. They just wanted to see God do a miracle in his life. There was mutual submission to a higher purpose. Mutual submission to a higher purpose. You know, there's crippled people all around us at your workplace, in your family, in your football team, your neighbours. We've got crippled people all around us. The church has to walk in step with each other. We've got to walk together. That's what I love about Jesus Christ Superstar. When we did that, it wasn't about the actors, it wasn't about Philippe, and it wasn't about Caiaphas, and it wasn't about all of the great actors that were there. It wasn't about that. It was just as much about them as it was about the people at the back, as it was about the production team, as it was about the people who organised it, the people who were selling tickets. It was about you who brought your friends along. We all did our thing. We all had our pole, and we all bought our person. We grabbed our pole and did our bit. That's why it was so successful. We're going to do something right now that is prophetic and profound. We're going to come around our giving right now, because this is what we are able to do together. It's an us thing that we can do right now to bring what is God's. God's tithe, our offering. This is an excellent opportunity to position yourself to help carry the stretcher, to help carry this house. This is where we're united in vision. This is where we all take a hold and shoulder the weight of taking it forward. All of us giving. I'm going to say that again. All of us giving. You're going to get it in a moment. All of us giving. Not just a few. All of us giving. This is where we know our part is to play. We are givers to the vision. We are building, listen to me, we're building a stretcher of hope to bring people to the feet of Jesus. That's what this church is, a stretcher of hope. So do you want to be a part of the miracle? Do you want to be a part of seeing lives transformed? Well, grab a hold of the stretcher. Take your part. I know it's going to cost you something. I know it hurts. I know it's painful. I know there's times that you feel like you can't give. I know there's times where, Steve, if you really only knew the weight that this is. Yes, I do. I'm with you. But let me tell you, the weight and the pain is worth the enjoyment of the birth. So I said, this is a prophetic activation moment. This is just not a little preach. This is something that I can't honestly tell you the importance of it, that we as a church get this. Here's the downside. If one of these guys on the stretcher decided not to partake and let go, the weight now transfers to the 3. And they are nearly in a position where that lame man could fall off and not see his miracle. If someone else says, oh, it's too hard and too far to go, now it's down to the 2. So what's happening? They're dragging him to Jesus. You see, when we don't all partake, when we don't all partner, when we leave it to somebody else to give, we're letting go of the stretcher. And maybe someone won't get their miracle because we don't partake. Maybe someone out there doesn't get their miracle that they're wanting because we let go of the stretcher in our giving. Say, Steve, that's fairly strong. Absolutely it is, but it's very real. Am I passionate about this? Absolutely. Have I got a conviction about this? Absolutely. Why do I have a conviction? Because there's people out there that need Jesus. You know, we enjoy this building because there was men and women before us who saw you, the broken and the needy, on a stretcher that needed to be brought to the house of God so that you could enjoy this. What you're about to do is prophetically activate a vision of people who don't yet know Jesus and get brought to the stretcher of Influencers Church by taking hold of what you need to take hold of and give with an understanding there's a lot of other people who are going to get ministered to because I got a hold of the stretcher. Number 10, find your place on the team. There were 5 people involved in this miracle. Each had a different position, a different hand, a different place, but they worked as a team. If you don't know where your place on the team in this house is, we want to help you find that. We've got Growth Track about to relaunch. We've got another activation called DNA, which we want to teach people about what it is to serve God. We want to help you find your place. Number 11, I love this. Respond in faith to what Jesus tells you. Hey, can you imagine what that young fellow or that crippled man thought when Jesus told him, get up and walk? He'd never walked before. He was asked to do something he's never ever done. Some of you are sitting on the opportunity of seeing something birthed in your life, and don't be surprised if God asks you to do something you've never done before, because it'll be an activation of faith. That man had never walked before. His identity was, you're a lame man. You're lame because he never walked. And so God's now saying, walk. It's a complete opposite to anything he's ever known. But he had to operate in faith. Some of you, in this process, God's going to ask you to do something you've never done before. I remember sitting, I'm going to finish with this. I remember sitting in a meeting with Pastor Ashley in Atlanta. They're about to launch another campus in Atlanta, but that came out of a conversation with the leaders of the movement over there. Pastor Ashley sends me a little text in the meeting. Your turn, Steve, go for it. So I see this text. Okay. We had a meeting. We had a moment with God before that when we were away about the oil and the vessels that we need to keep. We need to go and ask for the vessels that they'd be filled with oil. And so I just said to the gentleman, I said, we wouldn't normally do this. And this is not something that we would actually do without a word from God, but we feel we've got a word from God and we're stepping out in faith, and we feel we've got so much oil that we need to fill people's lives, but we need buildings. You've got buildings, and so we're asking you, will you give us your buildings? It's a bit of a radical thing to do. He went, yes, we've got buildings. So there's a new campus about to be launched in Atlanta because we did something outside of the normal. We actually responded in faith to what God said to do. You don't go and ask people for things like that. Now they're about to move into a building that they didn't pay for, yet it goes on our balance sheet and we own it. How good's that? Blessing. What's more, there's so many more buildings that they've got that they want to give us. Favor. If you respond in faith. What did I say last week? Anything God touches, anything Jesus touches turns into multiplication. It's never the addition, it's always a multiplication. So we asked for a building, we've got buildings. Multiplication.